With just 3 days to go, the race for the White House continues to tighten, with a brand new Fox News poll showing Hillary Clinton leading Donald Trump by just 2 points in a four-way matchup. But Tuesday's results all come down to the Electoral College math and a handful of battleground states that still remain too close to call. Republican pollster Ed Goeas is here with a closer look at the numbers. So, Ed, good to have you here with us. Thanks for coming in.
Glad to be here, Paul.
Okay, so the conventional wisdom is it's a tight race, but Hillary Clinton has a narrow 1 to 3 point lead. Is that how you see it?
I think that's basically where it is. I would put it more at 3 to 4 points when looking at the polls. For example, on the Fox poll that you just mentioned, it came down from a 3-point lead to a 2-point lead. But the sample a week ago was 7 points net Democrat. The sample this week was even between the two parties. And that's not accounted for in the numbers. So actually, I don't know that the numbers wouldn't be moving away from Trump as opposed towards him looking at that sample. But I think the key thing in looking at the data, and this is what I've seen this entire campaign, is that both these candidates have extremely high negatives. And the only thing that has really moved is the strongly unfavorable on both these candidates, moving up almost to the 50% mark. So I think everyone keeps looking for big movement in the ballot when, in fact, it's almost like a governor on a car. It's holding both of them down. Someone starts to break loose, and that pulls it back into reason.
But doesn't that mean, Ed, that there could be some volatility at the end? If people are unsatisfied with both candidates, couldn't they just throw up their hands and say, you know, we're willing to go with one or the other and move?
Well, I think that's what you saw in the last couple of weeks. As you saw after the Access Hollywood tape, you saw Hillary Clinton jump in the numbers. That was not coming from people coming from Trump and moving to her. That was from Johnson to her, and you saw Johnson come down from 9 to 6 points. In this most recent FBI, you didn't see Hillary come down. You saw Trump go up, again, from taking more votes from Johnson. So I think that was always the question mark, is what were those voters that disliked both these candidates that were parked with the third-party candidates going to do? And I think they've now come home, and that's where you have a much closer race.
Where do you think Trump stands vis-a-vis Clinton at this stage of the race, the weekend before the election, compared to where Romney stood with Obama 4 years ago?
Well, we had, going into that last election, the race basically even between both candidates.
That was wrong. I mean, that was way off.
Well, and that's a key point, though, in terms of the real question now, as you see all these individual battleground states get very close, is polling only predicts where the race is if everything else is even. But as you move into this weekend, you're moving from moving the ballot to moving to the polls to actually vote. And that's where you start looking at who has more money, who has more ground game, who has more good surrogates out there driving that vote to the polling place. And as we saw on Election Day in 2012, that if one campaign does not have the quality ground game that the other campaign does, it could make a 2 or 3 point difference at the end of the day.
The promise of the Trump campaign, and the Ted Cruz campaign also promised this, was that they would drive a higher percentage of white vote than Mitt Romney got. Mitt Romney got 59% of the white vote in the end, but they think they could drive that higher, and the higher share of the electorate, which was 72% last time, and make it even higher, 73, 4, or 5. Are we seeing any evidence that that's taking place?
You don't. And what you see, quite frankly, inside the white vote is that Trump is not doing as well with college-educated white females and even college-educated white men. He's far behind the margin where he needs to be on that. And that's kind of come into play in this election. They may turn out, but they're not necessarily voting for him.
Yeah, but you're seeing, but Ed, look, you're seeing, let's take states like Iowa and Ohio, okay? Romney lost both of them. Trump is up in both of them, and they have a relatively smaller share of the minority vote than some of the other states, and Trump's lead in those states is often attributed to those voters.
Well, they are attributed to those voters, and particularly in Iowa. I think Trump is going to win Iowa. I think if you look at the numbers today, assuming that the ground game is even between both those campaigns, I think Trump wins Ohio come Tuesday night. But that's kind of where the story ends.
You don't think Ohio is within reach for Trump?
No, I think Trump does win Ohio, assuming everything is the same. But you look at Pennsylvania, you look at North Carolina, you look at Florida, you look at Nevada, all states that Trump probably has to win to get over that 270 mark. Those states are a real question mark. They have closed. But the real question is going to become the ground game, who does a better job of turning out your vote, on whether he squeaks through on some of those states or, in fact, loses those states.
It'd be fascinating to see, could this be the year where you have a different kind of map, where Trump breaks through in one of these Midwestern industrial states, for example, that like Wisconsin or Michigan. Michigan's close to even, and Hillary Clinton campaigned there on Friday. It was a surprise to me for her to go there. He sneaks through with one of those states, surprisingly, and then could lose a state where Romney won, like North Carolina or you know, perhaps Florida. Romney lost that, but it was close.
Well, I think both Florida and North Carolina are on the cusp. I think it's kind of a false lead in terms of Michigan and in Wisconsin, quite frankly.
So you don't think he's going to make a breakthrough in any of those? You think he's got to go basically to all the Romney states and then sneak into with Iowa, Ohio, maybe sneak in with a New Hampshire, a Colorado, Nevada, something else?
I think he needs Nevada. I think he needs Iowa. I think he could do New Hampshire. He has to win North Carolina. He has to win Florida. He has to win Ohio. And I think the real question mark right now is Pennsylvania. The polling is showing it closing there. But because Pennsylvania doesn't have early voting, there's no real feel for, is there a ground game there, quite frankly, on either campaign side.
Right.
And so Pennsylvania is going to be the race to watch. It's probably one he needs to win, because just having Iowa and even Nevada doesn't get him over the top. So watch Pennsylvania on election night.
All right. Thanks very much, Ed. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.